Welcome to Johnny Ray's Backwoods Guns, coming at you from my shop tonight, shooting a video for my YouTube channel, loading 45 Colt tonight. I loaded a video the other day on the 450 Hornady, and everyone liked these bullets, these FTX bullets, so I was going to load some 45 Colt, 45 long Colt, whatever you want to call it, with those and show you how to do it. Stick around, guys, should be interesting. All right, guys, we're going to load these 45 Colt revolver, which a lot of people call it the 45 long Colt. But loading these, there's two special things you got to look out for. All right, make sure you look, if you're loading for a lever action gun, look up for a lever action gun. They've got two different listings, rifle and revolver. I'm looking for a revolver, so use the revolver loading ballistics and data, okay? Anyway, on these 45 Colts, remember, guys, these are use 452 bullets, not the 458s. If you remember the other night, we loaded 450 Marlin, and it uses 458 bullets. Okay, guys? They're both 45 caliber, and the 4570 uses the 458s too. But we're using the 45 Colt, we're using 452s. Make sure you get the right size bullets. All right, now go to the case. The case length says 1.285. Minimum case trim length is 1.275. But if you slide over here, we're going to use 225 grain FTXs. So they tell you to trim the brass even smaller, down to 1.215. So it's actually 600ths less of an inch. Something about the ogive. These have a cantilever line on it, and that's where they want you to seat it. So anyway, guys, slide down here to blue dot, and I'm going to use 12 grain of blue dot. I've used this before. It's a good load. I'm going to seat at 1.645. So case over length, 1.645 blue dot, and I'm going to use Winchester large pistol primers. A lot of guys don't know this, but for a long time, Winchester only made standard primers. They didn't make Magnum. But in the last 15 years, 10, 15 years, everyone wanted Magnum primers. I don't think they changed the ingredients or code or anything. I think they just started putting Magnum on it, because if you notice, it says for standard or Magnum pistol loads. I'm going to use 45 Colt dies. These use titanium nitrate instead of carbide, but it's the same thing. It's just a different alloy, I guess, but you don't have to use lube. So you don't have to worry about stuck cases. I like using lube because I feel like I get a better size on my brass, but if you don't want to worry about the mess, don't use it. Of course, we're going to use these 452 FTXs, blue dot primers. All right, guys, the big thing here now is to trim this brass right, so let's get to trimming brass. Alrighty. I've set my press up with my universal decapping die, guys. The reason I want to use universal decapping, I don't want to size this brass in the least. A lot of times you size it, it's really hard to trim. So I'm just going to knock primer out of it. There's one. I'm only going to do two for you. You all have seen me prime before. Here's the second one. All right, guys, let's move to my brass trimmer and trim this brass. All right. Tonight I'm going to use my Hornady case trimmer, this lay press I came out with. It's been out for a while. I usually trim my brass with a Lee trim gauge, and I use it on my prep station. But since I got to trim this brass to 1215, which is 600,000th lower than the usual trim length, I'm going to use this. The trim gauges from Lee don't trim down to 1215. But anyway, you can take this handle off and order a drill attachment from Hornady and send Hornady $20, and they'll send you one of these with a 3/8 thread, 24 thread count that'll screw right on the end, or you can get you just a simple 3/8 nut with 24 thread count, not the 16, the rough cut. I think it's a fine cut. 24, get you a 9/16 wrench or socket. Throw it on your screwdriver, and you can trim like that. since I got to trim 600 thousandths off, I thought I would do it that way tonight. So I've already set my length up here. Just slide in, make sure you get, like I said, slide in here. Make sure you thread your cutter in first, then tighten it up. Guys, I got a little brass catcher. Let me get this out of the way so you can see better. 3D printing, reloading 3D. Made me these. They make me my jigs. They make me these brass catchers for your lathe if you don't want brass all the way. But just for the sake of seeing tonight, we will move that out of the way. If you need anything, any kind of jigs or anything made, they make funnels, they make jigs, they make all kinds of stuff. I'll list their website on my links below, and you can get a hold of them. Good guys. All right, I'm just going to hit forward and trim this up. And guys, they say to put a drop of oil in there. I like to put a little oil there, and I like to put a little bit on my cutting blades since I'm going to cut a lot of brass. You can feel it when it goes to give in. You can feel it give out. It'll just start spinning free. It's still cutting. This takes about 30 seconds. There it goes. It's spun free. This takes about 30 seconds to cut one. I guess if you got a more powerful drill, it wouldn't take as long. But let's measure this. We're at 1213. We need to be under 1215. Now, I'm going to size this. We'll see how much it grows. It grew 1,000, maybe 2,000 if you spin that. That's about right there, guys. Yeah, that's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Just according to how you spin it. When we chafe and deburr, clean that head up, that'll give us a more flat surface so we can get a better reading. But it's under 1215. Let's go to our last one. Lock your head in first. Now lock your head stamp. I like these little cordless screwdrivers because they're not real powerful, but they seem to get the job done. It's almost there. Usually takes about 30 seconds, piece of brass. These blades only cut one way, guys. So if you run it in reverse, it's not going to cut, okay? It's not going to cut at all. It's just going to smooth up your brass a little bit. I think my battery's about to die on the drill. That should be good. All right, guys, let's go to the prep station and chafe, deburr, and clean these primer pockets. Like I said earlier, this is how I usually trim my brass with one of these lead trim gauges. You just hold it down and it trims off the inside, but this would have made it too long for this special cut. So I've already cut these short enough. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to chafe and deburr the mouth, and I'm going to clean these primer pockets up. So let's get started. Luckily I got my rubber nose pliers. Get that primer pocket real clean. I'm going to try to if you just do a few of these, it's not that big of a deal. But if you do a lot, these pliers, rubber nose pliers, really come in handy. You want to try to hold that flat. Since I cut those real short, I was going to chafe and deburr real good. It helps you get a good seat, and it helps you get a good crimp. It's real smooth. Look at that. That primer pocket's nice and clean. Of course, it's a good chafe and deburr right there. Nice, smooth. Let's check our length. course, I've said this before. Try to do something on camera. You see that 1212? As long as it's under 1215. I'm only going to do 2 of these. Save time. I'll do the rest of them. A lot of times when I'm doing 2, 3, 4, or 10, I don't even use my pliers, but they save your hand from hurting so much. After you get if you do a couple hundred pieces of brass, try to hold it nice and flat. Good chafe and deburr. One, 2, 1, 5. Okay, guys, 1, 2, 1, 5 is what we're shooting for. 1, 2, 1, 5. Guys, as long as it's 1, 2, 1, 4, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 2, 5, 6. When you seat your bullet, it's still going to be the same distance from the bottom of your bullet to your head case, to your head stamp. You're just going to have a little more brass to crimp with around the top of your bullet. But 100 thousandths is, I mean, that's like the thickness of a piece of dust or lint, so it's not going to make that big of a difference. All right, I'm going to prime with these large pistol primers, Winchester large pistol primers. I already put one in my cup, same way I always prime. Slide your brass in there. Nice primed piece of brass. Let's do one more. Guys, there's about 10 ways to prime. You can use hand primers, you can use work top, bench top primers. I like priming on these rock chuckers and these Lee presses. That's the way I learned. I just got used to it. That feels real good. Nice and nice concave feeling, level. All right, guys, let's go to powder, and then I'll powder these up. Like I said the other night, get you one of these levels. Lay it down on your scale. Try to get it left to right, back and forth level. All right, that's good. As long as the air conditioner's not blowing on that, it's level, and it's been turned on for more than 15 minutes, it ought to be good. Here's the funnel I'm going to use. Make sure it says 0. Let's zero it out. See, it's 0. Now I already set my powder dropper up with 10 grain of powder. I'm sorry, 12 grain of powder. So I'm just going on to trickle up a tiny bit. Well, let's lift up. Set back down. Lift up. Set back down real easy. All right, of course that's what's going to happen. I'm going to knock a little powder out and start again. I don't care if it's a 1/10 off when I'm loading pistol, but I don't like 2/10 off. So let's trickle up to 12. Lift up, set down. Of course, 12.1. Lift up. All right, I'm gonna call that a good charge, guys. So, charge my brass. One more. 11.9. Let's trickle up to 12. Once you get it going, this goes pretty fast. But you got to get a rhythm. All right, that's 12. Powder up that. I'll powder the rest of these off camera. Let's just slide down here to my rock chucker where I'm going to seat. Guys, I almost forgot. I got to flare this a little bit, all right? These FTXs, they're not boat tails, they're flat tip. They've got a tiny roll on them, but I still like to flare just a little bit. So I set up my Lee universal flaring die. That's all you got to do. Now I'll do the other one. Yeah, you can feel it engage. And jerk this shell holder out of here. All right. That's about how I like it flared. Run your, I'm wanting to get right on that cantilever line. If you can see that, it's right on the cantilever line. Should be 1265, is what the book says. Let's see what, 1649. That's what happens when you load about 4 different chambers in one day. Let's adjust this micrometer down about 3 or 4 clicks. Reseat. Let's see where she lands. 1646. We're supposed to be at 1645. I hate trying to do this, but I'm going to knock it 1 notch, see what happens. Yeah, 1643. I might be just pushing a little too hard. Get that right on that edge. 1644. That's good enough for me, guys. I'm going to leave that right there. All right, let's throw this last one in here. Lima bullet. Maybe we'll get this first try. One 1647. If I spin that, it's going to pop between 47 and 48. I mean, guys, you can sit here and play with this all day long and get it if you're worried about. I mean, I'd like to think in my mind I could, my machine shop skills would let me machine everything to half a 10,000ths, but I'm just kidding myself. All right, guys. Now, let's crimp these. I've got my leaf factory crimp already set up. Since that's on that cantilever line, I want to crimp these bullets. These are going to be shot in a revolver. A lot of times, if they're a hard-hitting round, if you don't crimp or have a real good seat, then what will happen is when you pull the trigger on your first shot and your gun recoils, it'll shake these bullets loose. Okay, guys, I've seen it done a million times. Well, guys didn't crimp. And any time you have a cantilever line, they always want you to crimp. I like crimping a lot on cantilever lines. I like crimping if it's a Magnum rifle or a big rifle. If it's a small rifle, you don't have to, like a 243, a standard load. But any kind of hot load, I always crimp a little bit, a light crimp. But there you have it. There's 3. I'll build the rest off camera, and we'll get this video done with. Alrighty then. Last step, get your chamber checker out. Grab your ammo. Make sure it fits. Lyman makes these ammo checkers. They have 8 different calibers. 45 Colt's one of them. All I do is set, make sure if it fits in there nice, flat, smooth, then it'll chamber. Just sit here and go through all these, guys. It'll only take a few seconds. Anyway, tonight it was a little easier than the other night because I used Hornady dies, and their seating stems are already set up to push down on the ogives and not the tip of the bullet. So we didn't have to drill the seating stem out. If you've got RCBS or Lee dies and you're using these FTX bullets, just go back to my last video, the 450 Marlin, and I'll show you how to fix your seating stamps on your other sets of dies. You can polish them and drill them out if you have to, if you got a drill press. Anyway, guys, I thank you for watching. If it's your first time here, subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, like, share, do whatever you can. Leave me a comment if you got any questions. I've got about 40 videos now. I usually do most of them for the guys that come in my shop. So if you have a question about basic functioning reloading, I don't do very many ladder tests. I don't do primer tests and powder tests and bullet tests. I usually just load with what's most common for my customers, and I use presses that are most common for my customers. Lee presses, RCBS presses. I'm going to try to get a Lyman press. a turret press. Maybe it's this 8-head press or maybe an RCBS turret press in the near future. And I try to mix it up and use an auto powder charger. I try to use a Uniflow powder thrower. Just mix things up and use what guys use in my shop. My goal here is to give the best instructions I can with the most common equipment people use, and then maybe throw in a new piece of equipment so that helps alleviate the problems that we always have. Like a lot of people had problems sizing their brass, and they came up with these to check, and it helps. But that's my goal. It's just basic reloading, so your gun functions right. Anyway, guys, that's it. Leave me a comment, subscribe, like, share, and KC, you boys from Canada, have a drink on me. I'm going to tear into that bottle in just a few minutes when I get done with this video. Thank you, guys. You all have a great week. These son of bitches clean so I can see something. You got brass all over them. I don't know what I'd do with them to alcohol. Shit comes everything. About ready?
Anytime you are.
Getting together and they're trying to mandate gun control, things along those lines. First of all, what do you think about their movement as a whole, them organizing and getting this out?
Well, understand they've been affected probably the first time by guns. A bad person came into their school, shot their friend, scared them to death, and of course they're scared. They've never had to deal with this kind of real life situation, and very few of us have, and thank goodness. But I don't think a knee-jerk reaction is going to solve any kind of problems throughout the nation.
Absolutely. We're hearing conversations of banning AR-style rifles, scary guns, things along those lines. When you're hearing the word ban, what goes through your head?
Losing civil liberties and rights. You know, when it comes down to it, the only rights you're going to keep are the rights you're willing to fight for. Okay, banning ARs is not going to stop school shootings, just like banning shotguns, banning pistols. It's not going to stop them. They're breaking the law anyway, so it's not going to slow them down breaking the law.
Absolutely. Do you have a solution in mind, a counterpoint, if you will?
Well, I don't think denying 18, 19, 20-year-olds the right to buy a gun is going to fix anything. I think, you know, I know they talk about stricter background checks, and I know they talk about mental health checks, more in-depth mental health checks, but you know, that's all up for interpretation. No, I mean, we've got a ton of laws in place right now. If they enforce the laws we've got, I think we're fine. Mm-hmm. These school shootings are a terrible, evil thing, but what we talked about earlier, you cannot legislate morality. You know, that's going to have to come from parenting, from a value system that these people have developed. They have to have respect for life, and when they don't, it's so easy to take someone's life.
Absolutely. I've heard, and I hate to fall back on arguments that are just out there, that they're talking points, but the good guy with a gun stops the person with the bad guy with a gun. We've seen an example here recently of that. The idea of putting guns into the schools to protect people in the event of a shooting. What do you think about that?
Well, now that's a great point. If we can protect our airports, we can protect our courthouses. You know, our most valuable resource is our kids. So there's no way that we shouldn't be able to protect them. Now, I'm not saying arm every school teacher. I'm just saying there's a couple of school teachers that would gladly had concealed weapon permits, have training, would have carried their gun to school, and if someone tried to shoot the kids, they would have stepped up, because they stepped up anyway without a gun. I guarantee you if those guys would have had a gun, it would have ended up better. But if teachers voluntarily want to carry their gun to school and they can qualify, sure, let's let them qualify. But like we seen the other day, somebody accidentally shot a gun at school one day. You know, so that's somebody unqualified, but scared about defense and scared about their protecting the children. So they're trying to step up, but we just got to get them training. But if we can find money for roads and find money for pollution, and we can find money to protect our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Soft targets are easy targets.
Exactly.
I think just setting the guns aside for a second, I think it's really interesting to see this young generation stepping up and doing something like I don't think we've seen before young people do stuff like this. Do you think that even though that they're 15, 16, 17 years old, that they can actually get something accomplished?
Well, I applaud them trying to get involved. People sit on the sidelines and want to complain, but don't want to get involved. You're not going to fix anything like that. You've got to get involved. But you got to get involved with facts and education and not just feelings and emotions. And they're working from an emotional standpoint. Well, what started this? Now, the local kids, they're just taking the disinformation, misinformation they're getting and trying to process it, but it's being fed to them. They're drinking the Kool-Aid. It's being fed to them from one side of the argument, not both sides.
Absolutely. I think the key to the question there, though, is do you think that they can actually be successful?
Maybe in anti-gun states, but in a pro-gun state, no. West Virginia is ranked, I think, 4th in the nation per capita of gun ownership. I think we got 54% of people in West Virginia own a gun. You're not going to pass a bunch of anti-gun laws in a state like that. Now, California, Maryland, sure. They're typically more anti-gunners. And it's going to be split down the middle. Legislation is going to be split down the middle. I don't think, at the end of the day, I think they will raise awareness, but that's about it.
Okay. Those are all the questions I had. Anything else you feel like people need to know that I'm missing out on there?
No. I mean, we can talk about the 18, 1920s, protecting our country, protecting our community if they become a police officer. When they're 16, 17, 18, they haven't actually experienced any kind of life with or without a gun other than just hunting. And then when they get in the real world, it's all different. I think these 16, 17, 18s, the ones that are marching right now, I think time they get 21, 22, 23, they'll have a whole different opinion.
Absolutely. All right. I think that works. That's good.